up here on the summit of Mount Buckskin. Today, going to be hiking the south ridge of Mount Democrat. For a full trail guide and more information on the south ridge of Mount Democrat, you can check the link in the description below. To catch you up to speed here, you can check out my other video, which is dedicated to a climb of Mount Buckskin on its own. This is a centennial, but it's not very popular. From the true summit of Buckskin, you're basically going to work your way back down to where you could have joined the ridge initially, but I thought this would be a cool way to kind of make a loop and get up to a mountain again that I haven't been to a while. There's not a lot of information on the south ridge of Mount Democrat, but from what I understand it's class 3, so it should be an okay scramble, I hope. No idea what distance and elevation gain or any of that, but I think ballpark it should be about 4 miles with 2,500-ish feet of elevation gain. I'm gonna put on some sunglasses so I can stop squinting and looking like an idiot, and let's hit the ridge. Just topped out that little sub peak there. Next up, gonna work down. I think we're gonna lose like 1,500 feet, but hopefully you can make them out. There's some power lines down here and the south ridge of Democrat right in front of you. Looking at this ridge to Arkansas, which is like over here. This one looks pretty sweet too. I think why a lot of people don't do these ridges here, especially Democrat, is number one, Democrat is a 14er that is usually done by people who are pretty early on in their kind of 14er journey, if you will, just because it's pretty easy, pretty monotonous. Most people who do Democrat will go on to do the Calibron and not do it on its own. But so what I'm discovering so far today is that the rock quality here is not great, so hoping that when I get to the class 3 stuff, it's more solid, but right now it's essentially scree hopping. In case you don't want to watch the Buckskin video, basically you park down there at the standard Kite Lake trailhead, work your way up. These slopes are a mess. Buckskin somewhere in here, and then this mess to descend. I don't really know why I decided to add Buckskin. There's like literally no reason, but so far it is pretty not redeeming. Looking back to some of the Buckskin, which is like, actually that one I believe. Trossy, scree mess coming down, but not super terrible. Next up, gonna hop on the ridge here after I get through the power lines right in front of me. Good thing those aren't active. All right, I think I'm officially on the ridge now. We'll see what fun awaits. Try to give you some aerial views as well, if it's safe. But basically, I think it's about a mile to the top. About 600 to 800 feet of climbing, and the technical part should last until 13.6 or 7, and then after that it'll just be a walk up. As you can tell, likely by looking at me, the wind is pretty strong up here, but my goal is to stay as direct to the ridge as I possibly can, just so that I can show, that's a loose rock, just so I can show you the true nature of this ridge of south ridge of Democrat. But as always, if there's something that's too dangerous, I am not going to climb it, and I'll find a way to skirt around. is looking down the first tower. There is quite a bit of exposure over on the right side here, but it looks like at all times today you're going to be able to skirt anything you don't want to climb by going left. I'm telling you right now, this guy right here, I'm not going to climb that. It's absolutely pointless, so I will be skirting around it. Lovely. Why I decide to do these things that don't have a lot of beta, likely for a reason, is absolutely beyond me. There is a lot of loose rock on this. Well, I'm an idiot. I should have climbed that. That is looking down that first tower I skirted. But oh well. I won't avoid any more of them. I've said this in other videos. So yeah, I'm avoiding some hard moves sometimes, but I'm by myself. I don't have any other beta, so it is what it is. Looking back on the first section here, so this was the move I skipped that you could easily have gone down. Other than that, just been sticking to the ridge. Pretty much since the start of this ridge, south ridge of Democrat, it's been a down climb, but I think finally there's going to be some climbing up the ridge and then over to the summit. Rock quality has been hit or miss. Definitely can find some class 4 if you really want, small sections of it, but for the most part this is all class 3 or 2. Next tower here. Don't think you have to go to that top, so I might cut like right there. There's a lot of these little, like, you can see them back here, like one-off ribs. A little knife edge. It's got everything so far. Oops. Oh, shit. Will this go? Oh yeah. There's just an infinite amount of these little towers. They're like maybe 10 feet tall. Another one in front of me here. Every time you seem to get up one, you climb down the other side. So although I know I'm making some, man, everything's loose. I know I'm making some progress up this mountain. It's hard to tell exactly how much without looking at the watch, because you're just climbing and down climbing, climbing and down climbing, and climbing and down climbing. It's a perfect example of how you can avoid climbs if you want to. So on the right side is kind of a tougher class 4 down climb, and then the left is a dirt path. But you can see the right side there, it shows you that like all of that is loose. I don't want to move my hand because there's a glare, but you can kind of tell what I'm talking about. By far the biggest head wall of the day, probably 50 feet or so. I think I'm just gonna go here. I hope it doesn't cliff out. Oh man, okay, I think I'm finally out of the scrambling. Obviously there's some class 2 still to be had, but this is a look all the way up to the top, which is right there. Overall, okay. The scrambling itself, like the class difficulty, I thought was pretty good, but the rock quality is where this ridge really goes south. There's just nothing you can really trust, and even when you're on kind of slabby stuff, this is so exposed to the wind. You can tell the whole day there's been a westerly wind just hammering this ridge, when everywhere else really is pretty windless today. So yeah, I mean, that is the big negative. Obviously, when you can't trust anything, it's tough to really like move fast and send stuff. By far the best way to get up Democrat that I'm aware of, though. So if you want to spice this up a little bit, and you could easily continue on to the Decalibron, obviously, after this, which is nice. So you could make a massive loop of starting at Buckskin, going this ridge to Democrat, all the way over to Bross and back down to the cars. Another short section of Scree Fest. Whew. Top of Mount Democrat here. I cannot believe I have it to myself. It is about 6 p.m., 5 p.m., I don't know. It's late in the day, but pretty awesome. And yeah, that's the south ridge of Democrat for you. Give you some aerial views here, and then we're gonna head down the standard route. You could, I guess, go back down the south ridge, but I don't know why you'd put yourself through that. So I would definitely recommend just taking the east slopes to the summit from Buckskin. Again, remember I did Buckskin, about 3 miles, 3,000 feet of gain. Not going to show you the entire way down. You have other videos on how to do that, including mine. So we'll just make quick work of this descent and get back to the car. I'll wrap up the video and I'll give you total mileage at that point, and hopefully give you better audio. As I'm working down Democrat here, I just want to touch on, I talk a lot maybe in other videos or in other references about how the Decalibron here I think is arguably some of the worst 14ers we have, and the reason for that is simply, in my mind, because of all the private land ownership around all 4 of these mountains. And it really just bums me out that they're so popular, because there's plenty of 14ers that are more beautiful and easy and all that fun stuff, but because you can do 4, because of the accessibility, the distance, the relative shortness and ease of hiking, people flock to this mountain. And even though I don't agree with all this private land ownership, it's not my right to say who and who doesn't own the land. But what we should be able to do is agree on taking care of this land so that future generations can use it. Like right now, I'm about to pick up some dog poop, so that's awesome. This is very old and nasty, but it's that kind of stuff that get the landowners really pissed off and have closed it in the past. So whether you're doing the South Ridge or just Democrat in general, just take care of this land, whether you agree with the ownership or not. This is my 3rd time doing Democrat. Done the Decalibron twice, but I've never gone down the standard route, so this is interesting. I'll just say that Bross is definitely the worst descent, but this isn't much better. Bitching about the trail, but look at this. 14ers Initiative or somebody else similar along those lines clearly doing some work up here, so good stuff. To the car now. This is going to be 5 miles, 3,000 feet of gain. You got Kite Lake behind me here. Yeah, overall an okay Scramble. Definitely not one of my favorites, but if you're looking to link up some mountains and do a different route of Democrat, I think it's worth your time. Definitely not dog friendly, just too much loose stuff, dangerous for you and them. And in terms of gear, bring a helmet, maybe some gloves. My hands are getting pretty torn up But other than that, your standard 14er kit. That's gonna wrap up the video here of Mount Democrat via the South Ridge with an addition of Mount Buckskin. If you're new to my channel, I do virtual trail guides all around the state, all around the country, and even around the world. So go ahead and hit the like button if you found this at all helpful, entertaining, whatever. To help really support the channel, hit the subscribe button and you'll never miss out on a future video. I have all the 14ers, including the Decalibron here, so plenty more to watch. I've done, I think this is like 106 now. But anyway, there's always a full free trail guide linked in the description below, which goes to my website. You can help support the channel with donations and shopping my gear there as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the next adventure.